The Colorado Springs Cycling Club is the longest running cycling club in Colorado Springs, responsible for not only putting on great rides year-round for the past 37 years, they've also helped support numerous bike events and efforts to make Colorado a better place to ride for all of us. Coming up next on Paddle the Springs, meet the board of the Colorado Springs Cycling Club. Welcome to the Colorado Springs Cycling Club member mixer. I'm Torie. I am on the board of the Colorado Springs Cycling Club. I have been a member at some level, I think, for now 19. Let's see, no, I have a 20-year-old. So 19 years. So for 19 years, I've been with the Colorado Springs Cycling Club. And if you don't know me, about 7.5 years ago, I bought the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort. Yes, and a lot of people in this room really helped me make that bicycle dream come true. Now I have a podcast called Paddle the Springs, and we talk about all things biking in Colorado Springs. And so one of the goals that I have is really to document the history of cycling in Colorado Springs, and then also have a place that people can go to hear about what's going on in cycling and stay up to date on that. So we've been doing lots of different features on local bike shop owners. We've just done Tony at Ted's Bike Shop. We've just done John Crandall at Old Town Bike Shop. We also just featured a local guy who won the men's 2021 race across America. It's out right now. It's a fascinating story about what it takes to ride across the country in 12 days. I know, it's crazy. And then we have Criterion Bike Shop and all kinds of neat stories and stuff that you can go and listen to. But this is the first time that we've ever done a live podcast audience, and so we're not nervous at all. And these are not reluctant board members up here. And then let's see. I think if this is your first time here, would you please raise your hand? Wow. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Welcome and roll on in to the Paddle the Springs podcast, where we banter about all things biking in Colorado Springs and the Pikes Peak region. I'm your host, Torie Giffin, and what I don't know about cycling in this area, my friends do. And here are today's guests. I am just so thrilled to bring you my first family in Colorado Springs, the Colorado Springs Cycling Club, and our current board. We have here Rich Heitman. He is a member at large along with myself with the club. We have Sarah Hill. She is our treasurer. We have Marcy McGurr. She is our current president. And this just happened last minute. He walked in the room and I couldn't help it. We gave him a shirt and he said, "You got to come and join us because you really basically helped start this club all these years ago." 37 years ago. This is Aaron Rosenthal, and past president and what was your role as the club?
None. Actually,
None?
No, yeah. Not on the board, but I facilitated the rides, 2-hour tour of the Arkansas River Valley. Its last year, as well as the helped create and was the ride director, one of the several ride directors for the Buena Vista Bike Fest, which went on for 17 years.
So that is how I met you then, was through the organization of the Buena Vista Bike Festival. So this club has a long, rich history of putting on some amazing events. How long did that ride go on for?
BVBF went on for, I believe, 17 years.
17 years. But it was Bob and Ann Smith. Did they start it all?
Yeah, Bob and Ann Smith started the Colorado Springs Cycling Club, essentially, and I remember being in meetings like this that many years ago, 37 years ago, as an audience member, and being in awe of both of them because they put things together.
So what does it feel like to see the club still here 37 years later and thriving?
It's wonderful. We have, so many amazing things going on in Colorado Springs related to cycling. We have a fantastic single track. I think I shouldn't say this too loud, but I feel it's very underrated in comparison to other areas, and that's probably a good thing until this podcast gets out. But also, our road riding, I feel like, has really improved as the city has improved in connectivity. And a lot of credit to one of our audience members, Alan Beauchamp, for that. And
give it up for
advocacy.
Alan. He actually made a job out of that.
Yeah, the advocacy that has happened in large part by Alan, but by this club to improve cycling, and that over time the city, I feel, has really listened to a lot of the things that this club, other clubs, and other advocates of cycling and outdoor activities have brought to the community.
That's fantastic. Now, I want to let you know, this is our first live audience podcast, and while it looks like it's a little small just from the view on YouTube, it's actually a really big, we have more than 40 people at this meeting, so let's hear from you guys. Give it up. Let's hear you. Yes. Thank you all. And we were just asking before the meeting, we have probably about a third of the people in our audience tonight are first-time visitors to the club or new to the club meetings. And so we're hoping to answer their questions today about the club, but also just celebrate the rich history of the club as well. And so for the new people joining us, in essence, what the Colorado Springs Cycling Club is a non-profit community bike ride with bike rides all week long, all year long, that go for all ages and all abilities. Did I miss anything, Sarah?
I would say that I'm going to say that sounds really good. I'd say the only thing we don't do is competitive level stuff. We are a recreational club, so we go out and ride for fun.
So we go out and ride friends. So when I moved to Colorado Springs 22 years ago, I knew no one, and I literally fell in love with Colorado Springs by bike thanks to the Colorado Springs Cycling Club. They were my first family when all I had to do is somebody said the word bikesprings.org. That's the website if you want to know more about it. They said bikesprings.org, and I looked it up. I found out that they had this Tuesday Basics ride that Sarah's dad used to lead every Tuesday and Thursday year round. It was the old Farts Club on Thursdays. That's PHEARTS. But so I found the club, and literally I would just show up and I would learn all the trails. I had kids then. I was towing kids, and they would go to parks, and we'd have picnic lunches, and they really became my community and my family. That was the day that I just looked forward to every week. And as the kids got older and I got a chance to break out on my own, they had the Thursday ride, and then I joined the Sunday ride, which is really like the cornerstone. But it's amazing because all these rides are pretty much still there. We have the cornerstone ride of the Sunday, but tell us a little bit more about the rides that the club currently offers, Sarah.
Well, I'll start, and then we'll pass it on to some of the others. One of the rides that I lead is the Tour de Latte ride on Saturdays, which is a low speed. Sometimes we go find hills, but we try to kind of work into those. Generally, it was designed as a building ride. So over the course of the summer, we would build distance and difficulty. Some summers it stayed, like this last summer, it stayed a whole lot more low key because of some health issues that I was dealing with. But it's always just kind of a casual ride, 8 to 10 miles an hour, really relaxed, and we stop for coffee. Or if you don't like coffee, most places do smoothies, teas, or anything else. And it's a fun way, again, to get to know the city, different directions every week, different coffee shops every week. We've also added a Wednesday night or Wednesday morning ride to the calendar last year, and I'll let Rich talk about that.
We started the Wednesday morning ride last May. James Chapman and I had talked to a bunch of people who asked us about a morning ride, and we thought a weekday morning ride that Wednesday would work the best. We did that through the fall. We started early in the morning. In the summer, in the warm weather, we go between 15 to 25 miles. There is some climbing because we live in Colorado Springs and we feel you should do some climbing. And then in the winter, James goes off to Mexico for several months, and so I kept the ride going over the winter. And we've cut it back a little. We go 15 to 20 miles. I like to design routes that get the climbing out of the way early and then come downhill at the end. We meet every Wednesday at the Gateway Center at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow we're riding up to Gold Camp. We're breaking our rule a little bit. But I think we're a little frustrated with some of the cold. And we will ride if it's 40 degrees or thereabouts, as long as the trails are relatively clear. And we also ride on Sundays.
So the Sunday ride is the staple of the club. That's been around, the Sunday social ride. And Marcy, tell us a little bit about that.
The Sunday social ride is led by alternating members of the board. We take turns leading that. We go 10 to 15 miles, I'd say, at the most. It's a relatively low speed ride too. About 10 to 12 miles per hour, I'd say. It's a no drop ride. Everybody sticks together and we just go out and have fun. There's a different route every week. Each leader determines their own route, and that's been every Sunday at
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Yeah, thank you.
1 o'clock. It's been at 1 o'clock forever after
That's
church.
right. That's right. After church.
For all those churchgoers. And then I lead the Saturday ride from the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort. We have 2 levels of ride, the intermediate that I lead and then kind of an intermediate plus that goes a little bit faster. We ride for about 2 hours, 20 miles. As we get farther into the season, we'll ride more. So we do that every Saturday, year round actually, but this year has not been very great for our Saturday morning rides, has it, Sarah? So, and Jersey
rides.
Mike leads our faster rides, but they head out of the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort. We have about 8 different routes that we do, anywhere from up to the zoo, through Garden of the Gods, out to Manitou. We ride out to Criterion Bike Shop. We do like regular tour to bike shops, visit all the local shops, and help patronize them. That is one of the other things that this club does so well, is we have some big event rides, like the frozen water bottle ride. What are some of those other big event rides that we do? Sarah, probably.
So coming up in April, we will have our progressive dinner ride. So watch for some more information about that. And in July, usually we do a picnic and have several rides, different levels of rides for that. And I'm trying to remember
The balloon lift.
the balloon
balloon
Labor Day liftoff ride, and we go to the balloons, watch the first wave, and then we ride to Patty Jewett for breakfast. At least that's been the tradition. We've had one year that did not happen, and this last year we went back, and they were very glad to have us back. It worked out really well. So lots of different options, and I wanted to mention what we've listed are the rides that we have ride leaders for. If there's a day that you want to ride and would like to help, come talk to me about ride leading. And we're working on a ride leader training, coordinating with Bike Colorado Springs, and we haven't tied down a date yet, but we'll do that sometime this spring to help give people who want to lead rides a little more guidance, so you can feel more confident leading. But really, the rides we do are about who wants to ride and where you want to ride and how you want to ride. So what do you want to do? And we as a board will make you Monday
Oh, the
dinner
Monday
ride.
dinner rides, yes.
That's a
the
spring
summer.
through fall season ride. Charlie and Dale usually head that up. So yes,
Is that
things
from
like
University Village still? It's from
starts at
University Village. And then do you
5 o'clock.
eat at University Village? Okay.
We also go to the park.
For the concert series in June.
Yeah.
They also go to Monument Valley Park for the concert series in June. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. So we have these rides, but that's what a cycling club does. But really, it is like a family. You can show up for a ride, and you could be new to town. I think I was talking to someone just earlier who's only been here for about a year, and they ride, but they hadn't found a community yet. And so, pretty much your work, your life can be going to work and coming home, and one day you pick up the phone like I did, or you log online and you find out when the rides are, and you've just show up at a ride, because I guarantee you show up at a ride here and you have found a new home and new family. The connections that you can make in this group are just genuine and quality. I personally like riding with a group because I don't like fixing my own flats. I'm just going to be honest about that. I ride with a group to learn the trails, but so I don't have to fix my own flats. There's always somebody there that's ready to, to sweep you and help with mechanicals and things like that. But it really, you do get to know the community and fall in love with it. And it is a great way to have a supported ride where that all of our rides are no drop, aren't they? Every single one of our rides is no drop currently, which means that when you head out with us, we will not leave you behind. There is no chance that you're not going to be able to keep up with the group, because we always have an appointed rider that will be the last rider with you and stay with you the whole way. So I think that's also something that really sets us apart. We don't let you fend for yourself. So what did you want to say, Rich?
Well, you're talking about getting involved. I'm new to Colorado Springs. I've lived here less than 2 years. I was an avid rider in Ohio. I was president of my bike club there. So naturally, when I came here, I found the website. I went on a couple of rides. I got involved. And the club will allow you to do as much or as little as you want to do. And that's how I met James. And James and I started the Wednesday morning ride, which I should also mention, he and I try to publish our route every Sunday or Monday so you can on Meetup, so you can look at it and see if it's too hilly or too long for you. But with that also, in Ohio, I had become involved in an event called the Ride of Silence. It's an international ride on the third Wednesday in May. It starts at 7 o'clock, and it literally goes around the globe. It's in memory of riders who have either been injured or killed in accidents with motor vehicles, and it's also just a method to raise awareness for cycling and sharing the road. And the club has allowed me to initiate the process to start the Ride of Silence here in Colorado Springs for this coming May. It'll be on May 15th. I'm currently working with the Recreation Department and the Police Department to get it set up. We will start and end at City Hall. The ride will be 8.5 miles long. The essence of the Ride of Silence is we go between 8 to 10 miles an hour, and no one talks. It's complete silence for the ride. We have a ride downtown that's pretty flat, so it won't be too hilly. And there will be a time where we're going to need some volunteers. We're going to need people to help sign in and register riders and do that kind of thing. But I wanted to let you know that here I'm new, and I just got involved, and they've allowed me to pursue this because I had an interest in it. And I'm very appreciative of that.
So what it takes to be a member of the club is very little. I mean, you literally $21 a year for an individual and $28 for a family basically covers insurance, so that we can give you a supplemental insurance if you had an accident. It also helps insure the ride leaders and make sure that we can also continue to provide the web services and support for the club. We do organize a lot of, most of our rides are, actually all of our rides are on Meetup now, right? Or all of our rides are organized on meetup.com. And then you can also find them on the website. It's very, very little. How do they just go online and they log in, right?
Yeah, go to bikesprings.org and click Join Us, and the registration form will take you right through that. You're welcome if you want to do it tonight. Again, I've got my computer, so if you want to wait in line, because I'll also be using that for helping people sign up for the St. Pat's Ride. But yeah, it's very easy, and you can reach out to me, membership at bikesprings.org, if you have questions or you have issues. But most people find it fairly easy to just get on, click Join Us, you fill out the online forms, you pay, and you're all registered.
So you guys are wearing some pretty cool jerseys. So we still have the Colorado Springs Cycling Club jerseys. These are custom designed by Rich, our vice president back there. Nice work there. Do we have any new jerseys planned anytime in the future? Or are we gonna sell out of these ones first?
We haven't talked about it yet.
We haven't talked about it yet, but they are cool. They are available here for sale, so you can help identify yourself with the club when you're out riding. But I want to get a little bit more into the heart of the club and how different people found the club as well. Rich, thank you so much for sharing your story about that. Marcy, how long have you been a part of the club and then you became president?
I know.
How did you find the club, first of all?
Well, I saw the progressive dinner ride on Meetup, and I thought that sounded fun. So my husband and I went. That was our first ride, and we had a great time. And so we started coming to club meetings, and we did a few of the group rides. And then there was a position opening for president, and I told him I wouldn't do it because I didn't know anything about the club then, but I said I would work alongside Rich Hostak there in the kitchen. If he would show me the ropes for a year or two, then maybe I would step into the presidency. And so he agreed, and he has been a great guide. And so here I am. But I've only been a member of the club for maybe 3 or so years. I don't know. It was pandemic times, I think. But we've had a great time, and like everyone has said, there's room for leadership. If you have ideas or anything, bring it to the board. We want to hear from you. We want to grow any way the club is looking for. So we are here to serve the members.
So in addition to serving, what are some of your best memories of being a part of this club? I hate to put you on the spot. I mean, it could have been riding in Iowa with me this year on RAGBRAI, and how amazing it was with all the host homes. Because once you meet your little biking community, you venture out too. Right. You can find people to go ride in other places with you. But
that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
The 50-year anniversary of the Great Ride Across Iowa, 500 miles in 7 days.
Yes.
And you get to kind of know people when you're sleeping on someone's lawn with them.
True.
But is there anything else that stands out in your mind, or really what made you feel welcome?
Well, Randy is the first one who greeted us at the meeting, and he was so warm, and immediately we were friends. And I just really appreciated feeling so welcomed. And I went on some rides. I went on a ride with Bob on the Monday dinner ride a few times and enjoyed that and met lots of people. And I just really like that little connection. And I'm a quiet leader. I don't like to be up front, but I get to be a part of things on the back end too. And that's really nice to let other people lead and just be a member. That's nice too. Yeah.
That's great. So Sarah, you I wasn't really joking that you were born into this. How come it took you so long to actually join?
So my parents were not members when the club started in the 1980s. They joined in about 1999 or 2000, somewhere in there, when my dad retired, as when he found the Colorado Springs Cycling Club and started riding regularly. So I knew about the club, and then one year I was inspired to do a triathlon, and 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 I was in And I joined the club for my bicycle training part of that. I wasn't training to be competitive by any stretch of anyone's imagination. But I joined the club to be able to ride with people because I don't particularly like riding on my own. And so that was in 2006. And a few years later, they invited me to join the board as the membership coordinator. And then they talked me into being treasurer. And I'm still here doing both jobs. And, I'm still here because I like being a part of the club, and I want to make sure that we continue to be an engaging group of people. My parents are still members, but they are not as involved these days, and I've even scaled back some of what I'm doing because work is also busy. But I still enjoy riding and doing my Saturday rides, so I stay involved.
That's great. So, Aaron, how did it all come about?
That's a good question. So, I remember getting on my rotary phone back in. So seriously, Bob and Ann Smith, who I referenced before, basically started the club. There was a prior club called Strada. Thank you.
Strada's the new app.
I fast forwarded to the current times and Strada Cycling Club, and that kind of went kaput back in the mid '80s. And Bob and Ann started up Colorado Springs Cycling Club. And it was through that I became involved. I moved to Colorado Springs in 1984, and so shortly after that became involved in the club. And didn't, get involved much in with the board, as I said, or things like that, but rode with the club a fair bit, led some rides, and did things like that to engage myself. And as has been pointed out so far, I mean, it's just so easy and fun to meet great people, and you just connect on your own level, and that's what makes it so fun. And then over time, because I became very good friends with Bob and Ann, that's when I became more involved in the rides that they were leading, volunteering for things that they were doing, and then ultimately took over some leadership roles related to some of the rides that were the primary fundraisers for the Colorado Springs Cycling Club, particularly the Buena Vista Bike Fest. But certainly not alone. We had a tremendous committee. Torie was on that committee for many years, as well as Rich and Alan and so many people. Bob and Ann were on it to start, and actually for many years. And so we put that together, and then it evolved over time. And it, at its height, we would have over 700, 800 riders. And we actually had to put a cap on it because we knew what we wanted to do and do well. And it wasn't all about as much money as we could make for the club, but rather what we could do well and safely and have a great time for everybody. So that's how I got involved.
Well, in addition to the rides, I mean, that Buena Vista Bike Festival was really, we were known all over for the club that put on the Buena Vista Bike Festival. I mean, it was quite an incredible event, what this team from this club did. And it wasn't just about fundraising for the club, because we also donated so much money to like the Chaffee County Search and Rescue, the Leadville, what was the bike club, the Cloud City
Cloud City Wheelers.
Cloud City Wheelers. So we actually have supported a lot of other clubs and different organizations that help support the community and making it safe. But that was quite a feat. I was very impressed that it really was like kind of a core of like just a handful of people that put on this huge 700-800 person bicycle festival, not even in our own backyard. I always wondered, why does the Colorado Springs Cycling Club put on the Buena Vista Bike Festival? How did that happen?
Well, that happened because the precursor to that was a ride called TOURV, the Tour of the Arkansas River Valley, which was a 2-day ride that started in Canyon City and overnighted in Buena Vista and then came back on a circular route. And what happened was that we started feeling like particularly the end of the ride on Highway 50 was becoming increasingly more dangerous, and we were just concerned about that. So then myself and Bob and Ann, another friend Mark, got together and we looked at doing something different that felt safer and took us off Highway 50. And so then that's how the impetus of Buena Vista Bike Fest came about. But we had some history in Buena Vista because of TOURV, which ran for 11 years prior to the 17 years, I believe, that BVBF took place. So we had engagement with the community, and that was very helpful. And part of that was things were to do something in Colorado Springs at that time required a lot more money and effort in ways related to police engagement and things that weren't required in some of these rural communities when we were starting to engage. Over time, they started requiring more permits and things like that, which added to some of our challenges. But it was some of those ease of doing things in more rural areas that brought us to those areas, as well as the cycling itself was beautiful and not trafficked.
So a few years ago, we sold the Buena Vista Bike Festival to the Buena Vista. By the way, it is Buena, not Buena, even though I know they say it in Buena Vista. But we sold it to their local Kiwanis Club, hoping that it would... Rotary Club, hoping that it would go on for years to come. And then I really think that COVID happened and really took it out. But it was something extraordinary. I don't think I've ever... I mean, I've done a lot of different rides, but that was something amazing that we used to do, because we would roll up into, as part of the committee, we would roll up into Buena Vista on a Thursday. Rich Hostak would have his margarita cheesecake ride that we would do on Thursday when we would get there. And I mean, I didn't think the two went together, but it actually was quite fun. We go to a ride. Then
They
on Friday,
really do.
Yes. then on Friday we would set up registration, and everybody would come out for registration. 700-800 people. This is no small feat. And then Saturday the event would happen, but the event was not just a regular ride. I mean, there are rest stops for this ride. We had Joan and Sarah and Cece.
It was Joan and Cece. Sarah just showed up and put it together.
They would put together the most extravagant rest stops. Barb, I remember you always in theme, full on. Barb over here. I mean, this club would do an amazing best rest stops. Go to a cycling. You want to find a good cycling event. Go to a cycling event that a cycling club puts on, right? Not one that just paid, event organizers put on one that's by people who love biking, who do biking, and know the best places to bike. Because we would go ride along the highway out to you could go to Twin Lakes, or you could ride the Mineral Belt Trail. You could ride around Turquoise Lake. It was just the most beautiful ride. But these guys also knew how to throw a good party, because we would come back and we would have a band, and we would have the beer sponsored from Bristol, and then
brewery.
The local brewery. We had Bristol Brewing out there. They were such great supporters of the event. We had so many great local sponsors like Ted's Bike Shop, who brought all the bike racks for the event. And then, I loved when the party ended and we would go back to the Thunder Lodge, and we would get to finish the beer and the band. We always put up the beer company and the band in the lodging with us, so that we would have one great party party at the end.
That's right.
Yeah. And then on Sunday, we would go and we would do either a minute or a belt. It was just the volunteers for the ride, and we would just go out and ride ourselves on Sunday, either the Hot Springs or the Mineral Belt Trail, and it was just amazing. And I don't know if you guys know this, but it was that experience for 4 years of putting on the Buena Vista Bike Festival and staying in Thunder Lodge. It was this cool cabin that a family lived in, a lodge cabin that a family lived in with 11 little cottages around it, Sarah? I don't remember.
Something like that.
I think it was about 11 little cottages around it, and that was our staging ground for the bike festival. But that was what made me start the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort. Was every year I would go put on this event and say, this is the greatest time of my life this year, and if I could do this all the time, just ride and drink and listen to great music and eat, then that would just be bliss. And
Probably in that order.
right. Well, we do like to call ourselves a eating club with a cycling disorder. I think that's what we call it, an eating club with a cycling disorder. But it was literally the impetus for my Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort, because I was like, I wanted to be like that family that raised their family and hosted people from all over the world, and it really spawned my dreams. So thank you.
Very cool.
So I do want to hear from some of the people in our crowd. I'm almost afraid to go to this person because what can't he tell us? But if we're going to talk about what this club has meant to helping make Colorado a great place for cyclists and some of the advocacy efforts, members of this club have been responsible for opening up Pikes Peak to bicyclists. Like, you can now ride up Pikes Peak year round. I mean, whatever time you choose to go is up to you. But year round, you have the opportunity to ride a bicycle up Pikes Peak. He's even been awarded by the mayor, but Al Brody from this club made that happen. But my first president when I joined the club was Alan Beauchamp. Where are you? Is he here? Don't hide out from me. Take that mic over to him. I think Alan should come up on camera this way.
No.
So he's such a handsome guy. Yay. Let's give it up for Alan, because he literally, he was an engineer who was a bicyclist, retired Navy, and
I didn't retire out of the Navy.
Oh, you didn't retire out of the Navy. All right. So he
About
didn't
10
retire
years.
out of the
About 10 years
He was Navy, but he retired out of the club. Then he's gone to work to now work at Trails and Open Space Coalition, and he helps do a lot of the bicycle advocacy now at the city and state level for us. But it all started out as a volunteer president for the club. So tell us a little bit more about your experience, Alan, and why the clubs mean so much to you.
I like bikes. No. So we moved here with Intel, CC and I, in January of 2001. And we were riding up, going back to the house. We moved from 28 feet above sea level. So us on our tandem here were pretty slow for the first few months. And this gaggle of cyclists would come by us. And they're like, hey, come along for the ride. We're like, we're trying. And then at the top of the hill, they would regroup. So we'd catch up to them and we'd meet these folks. And they're like, hey, we're the Colorado Springs Cycling Club. You should come ride with us. We're like, we don't know if we can. But that happened several times while we were out and about. We had been in a tandem club in the Bay Area, but hadn't been real big club people until we met this amazing gangly group of cyclists of all sizes and shapes and speeds and backgrounds and what have you. And so they kept inviting us. And so I'm like, okay, I got to figure this club thing out. So we went to our first Sunday social ride, which is still going on to this day, the bread and butter ride for the club. And then we started to becoming a little bit more involved, and the current club president at the time, Dave Vanderwig, figured out pretty quickly I was naive and gullible. And he said, have you ever thought about being a club president? And I was like, no. And so I did 2 terms, did 4 years, and it was some of the best time of our lives, Cece and I. She wanted to be here this evening, but she just wasn't feeling 100%. And we learned Colorado Springs on our tandem following our ride leader around, usually Stan Hill, because at the time he was leading 55 rides or so a year. I mean, it was just insane. But we literally fell in love with the community and got to know the community with this wonderful group of cyclists out on a ride every Sunday. And then just got even more involved. We got slightly involved in the Buena Vista Bike Fest. And and that was just an amazing event. Aaron did a great job kind of telling you the whole history of that. And it was just wonderful to see that all these folks just loving to ride their bikes together and eating. So eating club with a cycling disorder, that's what I used to always call it. Would also love to engage in the community in different ways. One of the things that happened was Al Brody, my brother of another mother, who is traveling right now. He was like, hey, we could do bike advocacy. And he was the bad cop. I was the good cop. And it was this little relationship that we started. And he was retired Air Force. He had a little bit of extra time. And so he figured out all the ins and outs and who to talk to and this and that. And so we just started teaming up and doing that and working with all sorts of other folks on bicycle-related issues. And there was a time when the board voted, hey, do we want to get involved in advocacy? Does Colorado Springs Cycling Club want to do advocacy? And it's been on again, off again, kind of depending on, it's like a cyclic thing. And but there's been a consistent presence with the Colorado Springs Cycling Club. Many times the city, when they were looking for proposed changes and upgrades and plans and what have you, they will reach out to the cycling club saying, what is your input on this? Because you are a big group of cyclists, and one of the things that we do is we track our numbers. And so they can say that this group that's been around almost 40 years, that rides, I forget how many miles it was on a yearly basis, because we track.
Charlie.
Yeah, ask Charlie. Yeah, but that's a powerful thing for the city when they want to make a change that they know the cave people, which is citizens against virtually everything. Yeah, when they know the cave people might come up and get their hackles up because change is difficult. They can say this club has weighed in, and this would be a wonderful improvement. It would be a safety enhancement, and they write X amount of numbers per miles per year, and how many people ride and how many rides we put on. And so one of our previous bike planners said, "You just don't even know how powerful those numbers are." So it's not just we think it's good for bikes. This group says it's good for bikes, and they're the, if you will, professional folks that are out doing it all the time. So it was a lot of fun, and I'm not as involved on a day-to-day basis anymore. I kind of do my own little bike things off to the side. I just went out for about a 25-mile ride yesterday. But I love seeing the fact that the club is still riding every week, got all the different organized rides, meeting the needs for a wide variety of cyclists in Colorado Springs.
Well, thank you, Alan, so much. And then I just want to thank you because on a personal level, he taught my youngest to ride a bicycle for the first time, got him off his training wheels, and then he went on to ride up Pikes Peak on a unicycle, taught by another member of the club. Al Brody taught my son how to ride a unicycle. You taught him how to ride a bike. Al Brody taught him how to ride a unicycle. Then he rode up Pikes Peak on a unicycle, and now he's in a documentary now, even all about his biking story and everything. But it's amazing the impact that bicycles can have on a community. I mean, I think that there is just endless studies that show that a strong biking community is an attractive biking community to residents, to tourists, and that people, I mean, I started a business on it, that, people that bicycle tend to come and visit an area longer and spend more money. And so bicycle tourism is a great industry to be in. And really, there is no better way to fall in love with Colorado Springs, I think, than by bike, because you can't see it all in as little time as you can walk it. So anyway, I also have to come over to Mr. Charlie next. Randy, thank you so much. Should we have him walk forward, Dave? Yes. Charlie, we want you on camera here. I mean, this guy is just, he's the numbers cruncher for the club. He's past president. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much, Aaron. We appreciate you. I can't believe that you weren't a board member and you did all that work.
Well, when I was looking for somebody to take over president,
yes,
I tried to get him to come, but looking at his record, he always leads in the background.
Yes.
Because Alan was president for 4 years. And then he and Dave Vanderweg tried to trick me into being president. And I said, one, I spent 30 years in the Air Force, retired as a colonel, did lots of things, and I said, Buena Vista is just fantastic. But if that's part of the job description, I don't want to be involved. So they said, no, Bob Smith's got that under control. And then I told Dave, I'm not going to be president until I've been vice president. So Dave came back for 2 years, while I was vice president for him, and Chris Conboy was vice president for socials at the time. And in the end of that second year, Dave said, so now you've seen the cast of characters. Did I want to change my mind? And I said, no, as a colonel, I can handle this. If Bob Smith gets in my hair, I'll tell him to go work on another project. So one of the first things we did when my term began was we only had one jersey for the first, 20 years? So I asked he and Ann would always design the Buena Vista jerseys. And I asked them to come up with it. And so we had one from the beginning of my 6 years, and I was thinking, that's my jersey. Now, Bob, going back to how did this Buena Vista thing start, Bob was a software architect kind of person. That was his career, and he came from Ohio. And our last assignment, Barb and I, was at Dayton, Ohio, right, Pat? And it turned out that Bob had seen this 2-day tour of the whatever river it is that goes from Columbus down to the Ohio and back. So that tour would go downriver for the first day, and then you could either camp or stay someplace. And then the second day they would go upriver back to Columbus to complete it. But the second day was always Mother's Day. And I thought, as much as I love riding bikes, because I was a member of the Dayton Cycle Club, I wasn't going to take that away from Bart. So we got here, and I began 6 years, 3 2-year terms. I thought 2 would be fine, but then it took a long time to push somebody into. And what the key was telling her, you could be the first female president of this club. And Jane and I decided she'd try that, and she was good for 2 years before she left town to go someplace else. Buena Vista, it was a club activity, but it was really Bob's activity. So then I was collecting numbers, and I said, well, then if if Buena Vista is like a subsidiary, then we pulled the numbers together and said the annual budget of this club was around $50,000 for everything, all the expenses and all the donations that were made up there in Buena Vista. So then we were able to come down here and start sharing some of that money. But then Bob got tired of running Buena Vista, and I had already committed that I'm not doing that. So we eventually ended up selling it to the Rotary. Right, and then for a couple of years they owed us a little bit of money, a couple of bucks for everybody that rode. And we gave them everything that was in storage up there, including the bill for the storage facility. And then in town, I was collecting numbers for how many rides are we doing, who are the ride leaders.
Before Strava.
Yeah, before
there was
Strava.
Charlie.
So we were doing all of that. And then as I started my second year, somebody came forward and said, let me take that off your hands. And she did. And then after Randy or Janine was taking over the club, then I said I'd take it back, but I haven't really updated data in a while. But we were in the area of 90,000 to 100,000 people miles in Colorado Springs. And we were doing, I think it was like 140 rides, something along those lines. And when we would go to some of the organizations, city organizations, we'd have the 2 Al's, and we'd come in there and say, hi, I'm president of the club. We've got this kind of a budget. We've got this many people riding. We ride this kind of stuff. You talk to the 2 Al's if you got questions. They'll come back to me if they need some, pronouncement. Because as the club president, I always reminded people that I'm the voice of the club. So we can have lots of people have their personal opinion, but if they want a club opinion, the board's going to get together with us and we'll put that kind of stuff out. So we had a really good relationship. In fact, KRDO came to me a couple of times and had me down at the studio because they had some questions about rides. Now, what you were asking, one of the favorite things
Yes.
was when U.S. Cycling had the Pro Challenge. And they had us in town a couple of times. So they came to the club and they said, we would like to involve local clubs. So we'd kind of like you guys to lead a ride. And Bob Smith was still here, and he took them, and we gave them the Monday night dinner ride. And then another year they came here and they wanted to have people volunteer labor doing silk screens on shirts. And I got involved in something that year that it was kind of neat that somebody, with that kind of talent, riding their bikes, racing their bikes in town, would come and see us. And it was a good relationship.
Now, on a competitive level, we've actually set some of our own records, right? Like, you've tracked the Great Bicycle Challenge, where we competed with people all around the country or the world for most miles and logged and things like that for a club. What are some of our stats?
Well, like the second time we did it, somebody came to me and said, why don't we have the club do this? So I looked into it, and they were only using 10-member teams. So we can't very well put the whole club in as a team in that case. So we ended up having 4 teams that year in Colorado. 3 of our teams were in the top 10, and 2 of our teams were like in the top 50 in the country.
For the most miles.
For the most miles.
For the most miles.
Now, the next year, they opened it up and said, okay, you can have your own club as a team, and then they had different cutoff points. So the first year, because of what we had done the year before, we ended up finishing 3rd in the entire country for miles over that 5-month period. So now they still have a 6-month National Bike Challenge. And because Strava got involved with it because they wanted people to not know they were volunteering miles to them, routes to them, hotspots. So we had 90-some people sign up. And that's the Strava was when Jenny went to sign up for the club, but I hadn't signed us up yet. So she became the admin of the club within Strava. So we still have a Strava account. We still have like 200 people signed up, but they aren't part of the National Bike Challenge anymore. So if you go to Strava, you'd be surprised how many people that you don't know, even if you knew everybody in the club, are riding under our banner. And then in the National Bike Challenge itself, during Janine's time, they decided somebody was whispering in their ear and said it's too competitive because it's the same people that are always getting the top 20 spots. But we still have a remnant in the National Bike Challenge database, and now they're doing it 12 months a year. And I saw that I just had prostate cancer, and the only thing that I can do now is ride a trainer. So I ride a trainer about 2 or 3 times a week. So in this time of the year, I'm still competitive for most number of rides. Not that I'm a competitive person, right, Barb? Just
Charlie, thank you so much for your service to the club.
One other competitive thing, while I was still president of the club, while I was still in the Air Force, I found out about the National Senior Olympics, and I decided that I wanted to go ride that. So Sports Corporation took over the Senior Games, so they kind of dissolved everything that they were doing up in Greeley. But I had the state record for the 20K road race, 24.6 miles an hour. And then when I finally won the 40K, and that was the last year that I competed at that level, it was kind of neat, to be like the big fish in a little pond. But then when you go to nationals, you're lucky you can finish in the top 50%.
That's amazing.
So back to you.
Thank you so much. So I was thinking about our new people that are looking at joining this club, and like sometimes just that barrier to showing up at the first ride can be, quite a challenge. And what do you need to know to show up? You don't have to be a member to come to the first ride. Your first ride is actually covered by our insurance. After that, we do ask that you join for that $21 a year for an individual or $28 for a family or more. But what you need to do is make sure that you have the ABCs, that you check the air in your tires before you show up. Go to a bike shop if you can't do it yourself. Check your brakes, make sure that they work. Make sure that you've got a good seat height. Make sure that you have a water bottle. We also do not allow you to ride with our club without a helmet on. It's just too much of a liability. And so, if you want to let that hair flow in the wind, you're going to have to do it somewhere else. But you do need to show up with a helmet, because I will tell you that Alan back there, he turned away a member of my family one year that showed up without a helmet. So it's hardcore, because helmets do save lives. So check your bike, bring your water, make sure you have a helmet. and then talk to the person who's organizing that ride and just let them know that it's your first time and that you've just joined. Make sure that you show up in enough time to make it comfortable and not anxious for you. There are so many great rides. You can go to our website, bikesprings.org. I mean, it just rolls off the tongue. I do want to, before we close out today, I want to find out if there's any more questions from the audience. I mean, there's so many people here that have such a rich history with the club. I mean, this guy back here, we've got to say hi to Alan. Yes, hello.
A member of the Royal Society of Octogenarian Cyclists. What is
a royal member of the society?
A longtime member of the Royal Academy of Octogenarian Cyclists.
Wait, and he was on RAGBRAI this year, right? You did RAGBRAI, the 500-mile ride across Iowa this year, didn't you?
No, well, no.
Oh. You've done it in the past.
Several times.
You've done
yes.
it in the past with your family.
Yeah.
But you've been a longtime member of the club. I mean, this club has a rich history, but we also have a lot of really amazing young people also helping to start the next generation of cycling in Colorado Springs. There is power in the age of this club, as you've heard. And the influence that this club has in the community is unparalleled. I mean, I don't even know of a club that even comes half as close as we do for our rich history in the area. Chris Conboy, you're here. Sid, you used to lead my rides. So many great past ride leaders and participants. Or Ruth's going on RAGBRAI this year. Anybody new that wants to ask a question that maybe we haven't covered? It might help the people listening. Anyone new? Yes, please.
What if you're exclusively an e-bike rider?
We love e-bikes and we welcome e-bikes, especially responsible e-bike riders who, obey the laws of traffic and trails. But e-bikes are welcome. I think whatever keeps you cycling and keeps you in the pedals and keeps you outside. I think the saddest thing that I can even imagine is being a lifelong rider and lover of the outdoors and having something that, that takes you out of that ability and that you would just stop. I mean, I wonder how many past participants in this club stopped because they had something that e-bikes would have opened them up. I hope that there's, no e-bike judgment. I don't agree with it at all. And I think it is the wave of the future. And my 16-year-old son battling brain cancer is a proud e-bike rider. But I really don't think that you need to have a reason to ride an e-bike because they're just fun. I mean, get a fat tire e-bike and go explore the Gold Camp tunnels and have a picnic out at past Tunnel 5. I mean, it'll make you a believer.
Well, you do Mickelson ride.
Oh, you did the Mickelson Trail. That's amazing. And, most rides now, including the Pikes Peak Cycling Hill Climb Challenge, including the Tour de Colorado, including RAGBRAI, most organized rides now allow e-bike participation in them. So I think that is a thing of the past. My son was kind of judged for riding an e-bike, and he said it's still out there. There's still the haters, but this club welcomes all riders. So any other questions from anybody out there? Can I just really want to give it up to the leadership of this club, past and present. There is one question, so we'll go to that. Why don't we do that real quick? Yes, sir.
Sorry, I heard you mention trails a few times. So
yes.
Primarily road riding. I got a big mouth.
We are primarily road riding. So we offer the rides that our membership helps support. So in the past, we've had riders that lead mountain bike rides. This summer at the Buffalo Lodge, we'll be offering gravel and mountain bike rides on Saturday mornings. We also connect with other groups that lead rides as well. But do we currently have a mountain bike ride or gravel ride?
So I tend to answer that question slightly differently. And sometimes I ask another question, are you talking trails as in mountain biking or local trail system? Because those are two different things. to answer Tori's question, we do not currently have anyone leading and coordinating mountain bike rides. We have, with our insurance, we have the capability to do up to 52 mountain bike rides a year. Just blanket with our insurance. It does cost us a little bit more to do that. And if we go beyond that, we can buy more insurance. So if there is an interest in leading and coordinating mountain bike rides, mostly at the moment, our ride leaders, like myself, that's not what I do. So I can't, but we would love to have mountain bike rides on our calendar. Most of our rides are a combination of road and local trail system, as in primarily paved trails. The Greenway Trail being one of those exceptions, because there's a section of the Greenway Trail that you can't ride without riding on gravel, but that's not a mountain bike trail. It's still part of the trail system. So most of our rides are that. When you think road riding, we don't currently have anybody who is leading those faster fitness type road rides, but we'd be glad to put those back on the calendar if we have a ride leader who wants to lead and coordinate them. So does that answer your question a little bit more?
I think so. So road bike is adequate for what limited trails?
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
Most of the time, yes. Yeah.
Correct.
And in addition to your gravel ride, we're also looking at, I'm looking with some of the people that I ride with who enjoy gravel. We're looking at a second gravel ride.
Yay.
We're not sure what day yet because we don't want to conflict with anybody, but we are looking at a second gravel ride as well because it's gaining in popularity and it's fun and people enjoy doing it. So
One person can make a difference. All you got to do is step up, right? Were there any other questions from our audience at all? Anything we didn't cover? I do want to give it up for the board, past and present, and also people like Aaron, who never officially joined the board, but he actually put on the top fundraiser this club had for many, 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 many years. Can we give a hand for all of these guys? 37 years. 37 years. It's just incredible. Thanks to these guys, Colorado Springs is just such a great community for cycling, and there's so many great cycling events, and we help spread the love and the passion for Colorado Springs. We make people fall in love by bike. We give people community, and so I hope if you haven't ridden with us yet, you'll come and join us. Go to bikesprings.org to find out our meetups or meetup.com. Thank you guys so much for coming out for our first live Pedal the Springs podcast. The Pedal the Springs podcast is produced by Studio 809, and my friend Dave back here, he has this amazing Studio 809 podcast collective, and it is your voices of the Pikes Peak region, so be sure to check us out. We do our recording of the Pedal the Springs podcast at the Next Us. This is a community cooperative. It's available. There are so many amazing businesses and rental spaces available here. It's located right in downtown Colorado Springs on Cascade, and so you could plan your next event here or come get a massage, right? I see you walked in back there. You can get a sound bath here. You should come and try that. Pedal the Springs podcast is produced by, we're sponsored by the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort, the only lodging for bicyclists coming to the Pikes Peak region. Thank you guys so much for coming. Have a great day.